Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today we're talking about all things LTO. That's right, and if you know about that, it rhymes with workflow as well, and that's because they're bringing business to the blockchain in a serious way. And today we're going to do an update for you on all things they've been doing of late. To explain this, we have two core members. We have Rick Schmitz and also Arnold, two valued members who speak quite a lot about what LTO are doing and lend their time. So thanks guys to both of you for giving us this chance to learn more about what you're doing lately.
Hi, Brad.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Not a problem. Let's get stuck into it. Roll up the sleeves. Let's get real about LTO. Now, guys, you're all about hybrid blockchains, really bringing decentralized workflows into the blockchain conversation. Let's just start a little bit of a recap for those who don't know a lot about what you actually do and how you're about real-world integration between business and blockchain. Arnold, we might start with you for a moment with regard to things like trustless automation and GDPR. Why is that relevant? What is it? And how does it relate to what you're really trying to do fundamentally with LTO?
So we're trying to combine blockchain and also the ideas of blockchain with the needs of businesses. And businesses need their information to be private, to be shared privately amongst themselves. But you do want to have the whole network effect to apply this trustlessness and to apply the security that you get from having everybody participate. So that's why we have a hybrid network. We have a public layer where we share hashes, where everybody is helping to keep the network honest. And then we have a private layer where nodes that organization run, share this data peer-to-peer.
Got it. Okay, so it's interesting you said it's trying to keep the system and the network honest, because we'll talk about some other aspects of the crypto network later and really discuss how transparency, trust and truth are really being valued by your ecosystem of LTO. But let's also talk about the permissionless nature, the ad hoc system you've built in, whereby they're permissionless chains and they're private chains as well, which is quite unusual to have that combination. How can you do that in the context of also trying to create this opportunity for enterprise and businesses to engage in blockchain?
Well, if you look at a public permissionless network, there are also some kind of permissions in there. If I hold some tokens, somebody else is not allowed to transfer them. I'm only allowed to transfer them. So those rules are captured within a contract.
Right.
You can do this the same thing for read for who's able to read that data. You can also capture that in the contract. So from there you can make a network where everybody is able to run a node and to join, but unable to actually get that valuable information. You need to be invited to participate on that process and get that contract and get the information that belongs to it.
Okay, so obviously the hybridized model is important. So can you talk us through what hybridization means to you as well, Arnold? Because we don't hear that conversation that often in blockchain. Usually it's one or the other, with public or private.
Yes. So hybrid is extremely important because if you go completely private, then you lose a lot of what a blockchain actually is. You really get to, why can't we do this in a centralized way? If you have a completely public network, then all the information is available to everybody. So that doesn't meet the requirements of the businesses to share this information privately.
Got it. Okay. Now, Rick, I want to talk to you for a moment. You've always spoken, you represent LTO quite often with many of the different media sources, but you do it well. So let's talk about workflows for a moment. Now, you've got proof that workflows can be improved. You've got proof that audits have been done. Talk us through, though, how you're providing the real solution as we move into this blockchain era for businesses.
Yeah, Brad, thanks for the question. There's a next level of efficiency that can be reached with this, right? So We have been optimizing our silos within our organization, implementing BPM, implementing ERP systems and CRM systems. But the second organizations are working outside of their own organization, they're going to send the middleman, they're going to send PDFs to each other by email, doing status updates by phone calls, which are all producing this unstructured data. So if you could create a layer that could connect these organizations together where they can share structured data and processes, they can all reap the benefits of data reuse, automated status updates, and where machines can do part of the job instead of humans. Mm-hmm. And then you reach the next level of efficiency, right? You need a lot of those repetitive processes in order to make it really beneficial, because obviously it will take time to implement these workflows in a decentralized way. But you need, but in order to do that, in order to reach that next level of efficiency, decentralized workflows are the answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so clearly you have designed a model and architecture that's quite simple for enterprise to adopt this. Talk us through that, either of you gentlemen, because we want to know how easy is it for enterprise to engage in your services, in your technology, so it's not stressful for them to have to know about crypto and blockchain.
Arnold, this one is for you.
Oh, actually, I thought this one was for you, Rick.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, Brad. Yeah. So organizations are reluctant of setting up a new system. Mm-hmm. That's what they don't like. So they don't want to move to a whole new thing where everything is all of a sudden blockchain. They want to slowly, gradually flow into there, and it needs to be easy to set up a node, and it needs to be easy to connect your own existing infrastructure to it.
Right.
Because you cannot turn your organization around from one day to the next one and say, okay, guys, we're going to stop what we're doing right now. Everything you learned on your job to use these systems is going to be void from now on. We're going to move to something called LTO Network. I'm going to quit everything we're doing because we need to reach efficiency. That's not how it works in businesses. If you want to engage businesses, you need to come up with a solution where everybody can keep on working how they're doing it today with the systems they're using today, or where you create a layer to create efficiency between those systems and organizations. So that's basically what we did. We came up with our live contracts, which are extremely easy to implement. You agree upon a certain procedure that you're running between multiple organizations. And everybody's using the same JSON data schema to communicate on those processes. And then it doesn't matter if you participate with system X or system Y, you can all connect your systems to the nodes you're running on LTO Network and share the data in the same way. And you can land the data into your own system in the format you want. If it's XML, SOAP, or JSON, it doesn't matter.
Got it.
So now, you can all reap the benefits of the efficiency.
Awesome. Now, sorry to interrupt, Rick, but Arnold, I wanted to ask you, as someone who's developing the architecture, developing the tech, leading the team in terms of making sure that the interface is also very functional, what's the feedback been from those enterprise parties that have used the LTO network, that have engaged this for the purpose that be? Have they had a good experience? Has it been truly, seamless for them?
Well, yeah, actually, if we're doing a good job, they're not even noticing it because they keep on using the same system they're used to, but it just takes away all this friction of not being updated, not having the correct information. So suddenly the systems that they were already using are working so much better, and the problems they were experiencing are gone. But for them, they don't even really know that or realize that, hey, this is because we're now using blockchain. Blockchain is really something that's behind the screens.
You raise a really good point as well, because arguably some of the best designs out there are going to be those where they onboard clients that simply don't know the operations underneath that are blockchain geared. And I think that's what you're alluding to, is that you're all about making sure the client can just perform better, can be more productive, be more efficient. and have better financial outcomes, but not necessarily have to know the inner workings of the Arnold Daniels brain, you know, when it comes to blockchain. So it's interesting you say that. Now let's talk about the vision for LTO. That you have a visionary paper, it's very detailed, you're very clear about this, and you're also very forthright in your views of the crypto space. So let's talk about in the context of, for example, the echo chamber. Rick, I want to start with you because you're quite vocal about this. What do you want to change the game? How do you want to change the crypto game? What is there an echo chamber, and how do you want to address it?
Yeah, what the thing is, I go to all these talks and meetups and stuff like that. And I see every time I do a talk or go and listen to a talk of another project, every day I see the same people around me. It's always the same guys talking to each other about crypto and how great blockchain is. But if you would ask a random person on the street, did you ever use Bitcoin or sorry, did you ever use blockchain? And then he would probably say no. Like, you don't wake up and think, hey, I use blockchain today, or that basically doesn't happen. So I think 99% of the world is not being bothered with blockchain at all. Where we are doing great things with IoT and AI, which we are clearly using on a daily basis. Blockchain is far behind the curve. I think we need to step out of this echo chamber and resonate the belief in blockchain and the adoption of blockchain on a much bigger scale. And that is something where not only the projects are responsible of, but I think the entire communities within this space, because we can only thrive this technology, which we all find great together, if we work together and resonate it outside of our own echo chamber.
Right. So Rick, in that respect, I'm going to be crude about this, is that essentially you want to battle a few things here. You want to battle the blockchain bullshit, which does actually happen inside the crypto space, but you also want to bring blockchain into the more mainstream domain as well. So to do those things, you have to have strategies in place. You have to have more than just a vision, but an action plan. So what is up the LTO sleeves? What is the plan for you to unfurl in terms of action?
Yeah, I think Arnold, you can do this best. You wrote most part of the visionary paper, so I would say Arnold is the guy to answer this question.
For sure. Yeah. Well, Arnold, let's start with adoption. You know, that's a big buzzword that you wrote in the paper. How are you going to achieve this kind of mass adoption and move beyond this kind of blockchain BS, as I was alluding to, and this crypto collusion and convolution that we see is a huge mess? How do we get it to the people so that utility matters?
Yeah, I think an important thing to realize and to understand is that people and organizations, they're not simply going to throw away everything that they've done, that they've built, and replace it with a blockchain. And that's actually what people inside this echo chamber expect. Oh, we're going to move away from banks, we're going to move away from notaries and replace it overnight with blockchain. That's just not realistic. You need to have a clear step-by-step plan saying, okay, we're going to slowly introduce blockchain and get the benefits that blockchain can deliver in tiny increments. And that's really also what our idea, our vision is about.
Right. And it's interesting you say that, because some of the projects I've spoken to, particularly in Europe, I'll say, I'm quite impressed with, because not only is the team very transparent and very real about their technology, but they really stress that point you made about gradual integration into current and mainstream businesses. So you're not thwarting their existing model. So you appease their design. You tick the box of making sure that they're comfortable as they start to adopt blockchain. So for LTO to do this well, what is the strategy, Arnold, though? How are you starting to sweeten the deal for them and make blockchain attractive to these businesses that can, in fact, from your proof, from the audits, actually be more efficient?
Yeah, so it's important to initially pick the low-hanging fruit. And one of those things is anchoring. That's extremely simple to implement. It's just, in our case, it's just an HTTP call to the node. And by doing so, you add a layer of security that they can't get in any other way. Normally, security is just done by authorization levels. And if you're an admin, you're basically God. I mean, you can do anything. You can change anything. You can go into the past, change the logs, etc., etc. So with blockchain and with this very simple thing of anchoring, you can prevent that. And you can always show that this data has not been tampered with by anybody, within the organization or outside.
Right. And you also, there's a limit to the kind of storage that the anchoring does, I understand as well. So talk us through the storage value of the anchoring with regard to hashes, for example. You know, why does it have all this imperative value add for enterprise, given that obviously there's always constraints with regard to storage and the pressures of blockchain when it's all on chain?
Yeah, so if you're looking at anchors, it's just a hash of the data. That's already small. And then you can create something called Merkle trees, where you're combining these hashes and creating a pod and storing that. So the information that you need to store eventually is tiny, and you can really optimize on that and keeping that blockchain small and workable for everybody.
Okay, so again, it harps back to the optimization for the enterprise parties. Now, again, one of those things that I mentioned before with regard to the visionary paper was this real focus on mass adoption. So are there any other things that you want to talk about with the visionary paper, Arnold, that address this process? How do you get the companies to not just try and test, but actually just know, to experience the possibilities, to get them informed, to increase the market of LTO? What's happening there with regard to beyond that crypto marketing thing we see, and really pushing forth into that business frame?
Yeah, so it's if you look at SaaS solutions, you see that it's always really easy to implement that. That you don't need to go through a 7-10 month trial, but you can just go take the SaaS solution, do a call, it's integrated, you run, and you continue. We need to have that same feel to implementing blockchain solutions. It shouldn't be a mass project that we're working on for years and years, trying all different tests. No, it should be easy. It's a feature that you add to your existing systems, implement it, and you go on.
Got it. Now, Rick, you can follow this up because you'd be on the phone quite a lot, I imagine, as one of the core supporters and proponents of building the enterprise ecosystem for LTO. So to do that well, you have to engage with partnerships, you have to build and spread the word of LTO out. So talk us through that process, Rick, of mass adoption from what you do. How do you get people to know, adopt, use, apply, all those things for LTO?
Yeah, so basically our strategy is to focus on integrators, people who are using our fabric to earn money, to implement that at clients. So basically we need to deliver them the best toolkit out there. So developers and integrators should be really comfortable of working with our products. So we developed a training program where everybody can say, okay, this is how you build a workflow, really easy. This is how you implement it. And if your client wants to start small, you give him API keys to do anchoring on a node. So you need to be able to basically approach this as a normal SaaS business. What Arnold just mentioned. It shouldn't be like. We have a team with about 20 people, so it's really hard to conquer the world by ourselves. So we seek integrators which have a good fit, and those are being trained to implement our solution. So, for instance, the sign request launch we just had, they implemented a simple thing called anchoring into their documents, so that every document being signed on their platform is going to be immutable. So that they cannot change and alter the data for the benefit of another client.
Right.
So these are already bringing so many transactions, and that's just one small implementation, right?
Mhm.
And you need to, the focus need to be on those parties that bring loads of transactions where nobody actually sees that the product's being used, or where you have the benefit of immutability or process efficiency.
Got it. Now, clearly you're onboarding more and more clients all the time, and we'll talk about those in the discussion with partnerships. But I want to talk about revenue as well, Rick, because that is obviously important for your ecosystem, for your viability. Now, clearly by having these clients, they're paying. But I also want to talk to you about that in the context of profitability for the companies that decide to pay you. Now, you've mentioned in previous interviews that you can actually show quite overtly and transparently that these companies are definitely not just enhancing their performance, but on paper are more profitable because of their integration of LTO. So let's talk about that in those two keywords, talking about profit for you and revenue, and also profit for them.
Yeah, so if you're implementing a solution like ours, there needs to be a return on investment, because obviously the clients that are implementing are paying an enterprise license for the technology they use,
Mm-hmm.
but they need to be able to gain money from that as well, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be being used. It wouldn't add value to these companies. So we had one ROI report being made by the government of the Netherlands doing the waste transportations. And they calculated in total on 30 million transactions. They did a 6.5 million euro cost saving in the reduction of personnel and speeding up the processes for all stakeholders. And that was quite astonishing to me, because the costs they're paying is so much lower.
Yeah, so you're basically saving, and we've talked about this before. Rick, are you aware of any others that have also done those kind of audits? I imagine they'll come anyway. I know it's still early days, but it is exciting to hear that there's verifiable proof that we can, as participants in the LTO network, or as someone who wants to know more about how blockchain can work in the real business frame, that they can go and research and literally read for themselves from other parties, not from LTO, that from the businesses themselves, that they actually performed better by integrating your technology.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing, so that brings proof that it is well, not your next super shill, but that is actually bringing value to the table. I think if you want to build a sustainable business which runs for the next decade, you need to have a business model behind it, where parties are willing to pay for. And you're only willing to pay for something if it brings value to your organization, because you're going to be depleted with your funds you raised during an ICO at some point. And then you need to have a product. And gladly we have this product market fit, where parties are happy with our solution and keep on using it. So I think that's a great accomplishment which we've met and reached this year.
Absolutely. Perfect timing and segue into more discussion with the product market fit, Arnold, because I want to talk about more the feedback from those who actually give a shit about using you properly. Because as we talked about, I want to be frank about this, the crypto community is quite diverse and quite split and dichotomized into those who want to use it for speculation and those who want to use it for utility and for the real future that blockchain companies can offer. In your situation, clearly you're in the camp of utility. You've made that crystal clear. You have a product that's viable and used now. So in that context as well, if we talk about the product fit, what's the feedback been from just the verticals you're working with the different industries, for example? Do you think it's the right time right now, given the influx of speculation, the rife speculation that we see in that other part of crypto?
I think the only thing that you can do as a project is actually ignore all this speculation. It's not what we're working with, not what we're focusing up on a daily basis. We're talking to clients, we're talking also with community members that are actually using LTO Network and seeing what they want and what they need.
Mm-hmm. Well, talk us through what that means in terms of what does it mean to use LTO right now? Is it staking? Is it investing in the future value? Talk us through what it actually means.
So staking, running a node, that's really helping the network at the moment. We have clients that are using network that are running a node, but this is not enough right now to have a healthy network. So we need members of the community that are willing to actually help in keeping the network safe and keeping the network honest.
Got it. I think that's an important point to make, and I wanted to move across to Rick to reiterate that for you, Arnold, because support from the community, especially now in this nascent phase, is obviously the most important thing for good quality blockchain startups. So Rick, what do you want to say to reiterate what Arnold's saying with regard to the imperative of community support?
Community support is extremely important because your community can drive you to the next level. We have implemented a community program where you have all kinds of different people, because you have developers, you have more business development people, and you have just people who are really interested in crypto that also believe in the project going forward. So we have something for all of these groups. We have a development board where people can participate in upgrading the technology, which is being open sourced. We have a business development program where people that are into that space can help bring us new clients, can help develop the training program, and introduce us at new clients. And we got a program for people who are just interested in the program, where they might lease tokens to node holders to get an ROI. And that's what you're seeing quite a lot. People are really believing in the project. We have a really strong community, and basically the most people are moving to mainnet. So that's a really good thing. So people buy in off the market, move directly to mainnet, where they're going to stake or either lease their tokens to get a good ROI going forward. We got a lot of traction in the last months. We are now on more than 12,000 transactions per day, and then we are circulating quite a big amount of LTO in the network, bringing a good ROI for node holders and people who lease to the node holders. So yeah, that community is strengthening. That's good.
So Rick, I also wanted to talk to you about updates as well, because obviously there's a lot happening for LTO. For example, with captions, with partnership there, Certic or Certic. Also things like lockup extension. There's a lot going on with these updates. So talk us through some of them, why you've done them, and what do they mean?
Yeah, so what we did, we obviously have this troll bridge mechanism. And the troll bridge was a dynamic way to basically reward people who are staying on mainnet and basically punish people that want to sell off early. So we had a gradual burn from 55 till 0 in 6 months. And I think in total 6 or 7 million of the circulating supply is now burned for people who are saying, okay, I got these mainnet tokens. I think I made enough with it. I'm willing to exit the project, and now I'm moving out. And the cool thing is, the bridge troll fee is only like 10% right now, where the ROI of seed investors might be X5 or something like that. They all keep on staking on the network. The belief is there, and that's what I'm loving. That's super great to see. The community was afraid that team tokens and advisor tokens, which were unlocking just after 7 months, were going to cause for a big dump. And I don't believe that, honestly, but to show faith in our own good doings, we extended the lockups until the end of the year. So I think that's a good thing for everybody, and that drives trust. So
and basically, Rick, I want to ask you about that. What was the reaction from the VCs and those parties when you informed them of that lockup extension? Because often they get quite upset because their intention sometimes in those parties is actually to dump. So you would be privy to that. You know, how did they react?
Well, we didn't exchange any. Sorry, we didn't extend it any of the VCs or investors lockup time
Okay.
because they could dump from day one.
Right.
Because we had the bridge fee in there. We had a fluid lockup, so you could decide to exit whenever you want. But the team, obviously, they got tokens at a much lower price than most other people.
I see. So it's just for the team, Rick. Is that what you're saying?
It is just for the team. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, showing faith to the community that the team is not going to dump on them.
I think that's really commendable. I mean, Arnold, you're part of the team. How do you feel about this? I want to ask you directly because it means you can't, go and drop some of those tokens into the exchange. You can't capitalize in this crypto casino almost in some instances. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I couldn't care less. I wasn't planning on selling anything, so I was like, okay, fine. I really couldn't care less how long that period is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because I know some of your other team members, and I think you resonate with many of them in that. From what I hear from the LTO community and also from the team, none of you are intending on selling. We can't obviously guarantee that if you could indeed unlock them. The fact you have locked them affords more trust because it means that you're literally saying, as Arnold said, we don't really care about that conversation anyway. We're here to do the tech and we're here to build the business. Is that a fair analogy?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Let's talk about some other partnerships that have come up recently. One of them is the VID connections. I noticed, Rick, that you've also formally tweeted that out. What's the deal there? Why do more of these partnerships? Because we see a lot of superficial partnerships just to FOMO people in. You don't seem to be about that at all. So tell us what the real deal is with this partnership.
Yeah, so the partnership with VID is quite simple. So they needed they've built an interface where you can verify documents that are being sent around. It can be invoices, diplomas, or whatever you want to verify whether this is the real deal. So, well, they had they demanded they had a client, they demanded for instant speed. They wanted instant verification of this transaction. So they knocked on our door saying, hey, can we use your technology to do that because you've optimized your public layer for anchoring. And it was a good fit. They're in the Netherlands as well. They have a good client base. And they were able to set up a node in a matter of hours and connected their VID application and enabled LTO in it in the next week. And then, so basically they bring usage from day one where everybody reaps the benefits of. They can anchor against a lower price than they're currently doing on Bitcoin and ETH. So they're moving to our solution. And this partnership has been working out pretty great. We did a big event at CMS Law to talk about GDPR and compliance. It is putting a hash of a document which contains personal data, putting that on chain. Is that actually GDPR compliant? And we've seen that it's not the case, that you need to add things like peppers to it in order to make it GDPR compliant. And that we implemented in our nodes as well, so that can be done automatically.
Got it.
So this was great partnership.
So Arnold, in that respect as well, I wanted to ask you, what's the kind of rigor that the tech team do to assess the value of the code, for example, the value of the project? For something like VID, do you delve deeply before Rick signs the deal?
It depends. For a partnership with VID, it's not really necessary because they're doing anchoring, and that's something that's being widely used. That's core of the public network. So no matter how you want to use that feature, it always boils down to the same thing. When you go over to decentralized workflows, it's a little bit different, and you do really want to dive into, okay, how is it going to be used? Is it being used safe? Is everything GDPR compliant, etc., etc.?
I guess what I'm asking though, and perhaps it's not the tech team then, but are there proper checks and balances when it comes to assessing that particular project? Because they're going to do their own tokenized economy, they're going to do their own token. So we want to make sure that when we hear about partnerships, that it's not just advantageous for LTO, but you've really checked into the quality of that project, because obviously it would affect your own reputation.
Yeah, that's definitely a question for me. Yeah, of course, I would look at the team. I love to do a business, with Dutch people, because obviously you can just meet them easily. So I had a lunch with him. I checked the team out. They came to the office. We had a discussion what their vision is, how they would use their token while they're using our chain to anchor, whether that makes sense for their community as well. And if it does, then we're good to go. So basically, we do a quality check on whether this is not your next scam project, but that they're actually the real deal, having clients using the platform, and where you can both leverage on each other's connections and clients you're serving right now.
Got it.
They check them.
Thanks, Rick. Now, I want to talk to you about the utility token design as well, because right now we're hearing a lot of discussion about the fragility of the crypto ecosystem itself. Utility still seems to be quite a popular concept in terms of trying to experiment with this in the business frame to see, but I want to talk to you more about how you handle this token, because it's not discussed enough, I think, about how businesses don't have to really touch it and engage. So talk us through that, either of you, about how you do the back-end handling, how you make it easy and seamless for businesses to essentially use fiat for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do this question. So there are a couple of options here. So basically, if clients want to use it, they mostly want to use it through their integrators, which are already implemented their systems. So these integrators are our core focus. If they believe in the network and in our solution, they would acquire a part of our network, a part of the utility. And they would be able to charge a higher fee for using those utility, right, them making money out of our solution. That's basically the gaming theory, how to make money with somebody else's product. So that's where we're all about. That's one way to go. So that's one way of the focus we're having. The other way is build simple SaaS solutions on top of your own network, where people just get an API key, they pay in fiat, and where the SaaS solution buys off the tokens of the market for the usage being generated on the platform. We're releasing our new SaaS product in 2 weeks from now, where everybody can just plug and play and start anchoring with any application in a matter of seconds. So just, awesome. That's going to be released very soon.
And Rick, that's cool to hear that you have two sources there, and we'll get to you in a sec, Arnold. So we have the wholesale process with the integrators, but then you also have this other part where you made it easy for businesses, basically by doing this back-end handling. It's just interesting to hear that you've got those two easy streams. Now, Arnold, please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I want to add that when you run a node and when you have tokens, you're also participating by staking. So that's good for the network. Each client, each integrator is actually helping to build a network. And also you're getting back at least part of the tokens that are in circulation on the network. So it's not that every token that you have to spend on transaction fees are your actual cost, because you will also get back tokens from running a node.
Got it. Okay, so that's important as well, and it will build out, no doubt, the overall growth of the ecosystem, and no doubt the token as well. But I also wanted to go into the discussion between securitization versus utility, because that's starting to become a bit of a buzzword as well in some camps. It's quite controversial, in fact, because people still aren't clear exactly how that's going to play out if we couple that with IPOs, for example, and equity play. But with regard to equity, with utility tokens themselves, one of the challenges, and it's a tough question because it implies security, is how do you, as a team, ensure that the token has the potential to grow in value, because it is valorized according to fiat. It's pegged, to a value. How do we ensure that that token can actually grow as you, as a whole ecosystem of LTO, continue to expand?
Well, so what you need as a permissionless network, especially if you have proof of stake, is for that network to have a certain value, because that value that actually gives your security, because people have to invest their money to acquire basically power in the network. And if the network doesn't have any value, then it's very easy to basically get or buy up this 1%. So actually,
Right.
the value of the token and value of the network is very important for keeping the network secure.
Got it.
And as the network grows, there are more transactions, becomes more important. The value of the total network also needs to grow. So it needs to become harder and harder to get a bigger portion of the network if you want to go and attack it.
Right. So are you guys happy with the way it's going, with the trajectory of the scarcity model, of the token economic model? Is it actually working? Because I want to be frank, we still see, when we look at markets on CMC, for example, price fluctuation, price volatility is still rife, and even it happens in LTO. So how do you address this? How do you speak of this in the context of business? Because obviously you're building out more and more business all the time, Rick. But the token volatility is another matter. So how do you really address this for the long term so that people know that this utility has real, true, viable future, not just now, but for the long term?
Yeah, so basically, I don't look at the price too much, because that's basically being formed by hype. But the clients that need to buy off the market or need to lease tokens from the community, there must be a match between price and the value it brings. So if there's a discrepancy there needs to change something. So either the price or the absolute number of utility being used for a transaction, basically lowering the price. So we already had that going on, where the value of to transfer from ERC20 side to stake on mainnet was just too high. The costs were 100 LTO, which was too much to move to mainnet. So the nodes voted on that. So the community running a node voted on, hey, let's lower that fee, so people are paying a lower fee to move to mainnet. So that's also happening when the costs of the network to anchor on the network are becoming too high. Then the nodes need to decide whether to lower that amount, saying, okay, we are also okay with a tenth of an LTO instead of a quarter which they are receiving now. So if the network value goes up, token price goes up, in comparison to fiat, then the absolute number of an LTO anchor needs to go down in order to match that benefit. So that's always happening fluidly and basically on a votation model.
And I like how it's so democratic as well, that you literally are forced into this situation now where the nodes have a voice in LTO, quite genuinely, to help bolster the ecosystem overall.
Yeah.
Sorry, Arnold, mate.
Arnold, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so it's important here that we're to some extent applying game theory, but it's also important to keep communication. You cannot rely on game theory alone in this case. Also because we don't want to get this race to the bottom where nodes might say, okay, 1 millionth of an LTO is also enough. We need to communicate, hey, what are you actually doing? What are the consequences of changing this fee, so you can get an educated decision.
Right, it makes sense. Now, I wanted to also ask you, Arnold, as well. I'm not sure who designed it, so perhaps it is for Rick. But with regard to the bridge troll we were talking about, recently there was some information released from LTO about the new number 3 troll with regard to updates. I think April the 17th was mentioned. I'm not for changes in percentage. Can you talk us through, though, what's happening with the bridge troll for this new iteration, the new development?
So this new iteration, it's mostly the meme. It's mostly the image indicating that the bridge troll is becoming less mean, and
Okay.
that has been implemented there from the start. This is something that has set out to function in a certain way, and we're not really changing that implementation.
Got it. So less meme, no meme, and more about just continuing to do its job. So it's going to have a role. Is a plan to keep the troll operational for the long term?
Yeah. Yes. This is just a formula that decides the fee, and it will gradually go down to only a few percentage in the next month. And then for the upcoming half a year, it will still get a little bit of fee, get at 1% or 1.5%, and that's still that still needs to be there. At a certain moment, when it gets too close to zero, we will just say, okay, we're going to move that to a fixed fee, the same way that we have now when you go from ERC to mainnet.
Right, and that makes sense considering the roadmap is moving forward now, Rick. So talk us through that with mainnet and in that context and other things that are coming up in the roadmap soon.
Yeah, so we have mainnet running from the day we did our ICO, seeing good transaction growth in there. Released our private chain layer now currently for developers and integrators only. Documentation is being opened also somewhere next week, and a sandbox to play around with it. Then we have a new concept called Proofy coming up. That's a little scoop for you there. And Proofy is going to be our Proofy. Yeah, it's going to be our SaaS product being built on top of the network, where you can just create an account, where you generate API keys based on the plan you choose, and where you can start anchoring. As a business that has an application, or as a SaaS product who wants to implement proof of existence to it.
Got it.
So that's gonna be quite cool.
Rick, I also want to talk to you about the partnerships, because that's one thing you really do know, and you don't tell me always what I want to hear, and that's all of the NDA related stuff. But let's talk about what we know. So you have partnerships like Decra, Merin, Cemex, Slena, CMS, you've mentioned, AVR, Firm24. There's a lot there. People can go and look at them and verify that they are real partnerships. But I want to talk more about what's coming, Rick. What can you tell us about the developments you're making, the strength of partnerships you're forging for the future of this ecosystem that is LTO?
So basically, doing a lot of good talks on with clients and on events. Besides closing new partnerships, where I can say nothing about yet, there are some pretty big ones coming up. Where you're gonna see the usage growing pretty fast. So the latest one we just closed are going to account for a couple of million transactions a year, which was sign request. So they implemented in their paid enterprise plan, where you get proof of existence by default on the documents they sign.
Right.
And,
so
and
Rick,
these are the low-hanging fruit.
That's a big deal though, Rick. I mean, you say low-hanging fruit, but that's a big deal for LTO. So when are we going to see these kinds of publications and announcements?
Yeah, so the next big announcement on a client is going to be in the end of this month. The deal is well, it's on. And then, but I just love to announce that kind of stuff when they actually started with it.
Yeah, I appreciate
and
that,
when
mate.
they have a node running and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's important to add that big clients that we're talking about doesn't mean that they're big names or their organization is really big, but we're talking in terms of transactions. A big client is a client that can bring a lot of adoption to LTO Network.
And Arnold, I think you raise a very important point, because as we were talking about before in that discussion about crypto BS, sometimes we see these superficial partnerships that are just there for the branding, not really for developing the utility or really truly supporting the integrity of the system. What you're saying is, if it's not going to do stuff for me as an LTO rep, then I don't want to deal with you, because it has to benefit LTO. And arguably these partnerships that you're going to announce later are literally trying to focus on the core value, and that is building out the transactions, expanding the ecosystem.
Exactly. I think you saw this also early on in when SaaS was coming up, that any company that even opened an account was being displayed on the site. And now you're seeing the same thing with blockchain. You had one meeting and it said like, okay, we'll look into your tech. And suddenly it's like a partnership, and you put that logo on your site.
Yes.
It's not important. You're not bringing transactions, then they're basically not a real client.
Got it. Now, one more thing, gentlemen, I wanted to ask you about, that's competition. It's still very early days, but in Europe, there are other companies that are trying to do some sort of workflow related concept or POC, or trying to bring in blockchain for businesses. Are you concerned at all, or is this actually something that's helping you connect with them? Are you aware of some other similar architectures?
Well, I believe it's healthy. A saying is, if you have no competitors, you have no solution. It's a problem. We've seen it early on, and we've jumped on that. And now other parties are seeing it as well and bringing their own solutions. So it's inevitable that you're going to have competition.
For sure. Now, gentlemen, it's been a long interview. Rick and Arnold, I want to thank you both sincerely for being transparent, for injecting more trust into the community, letting us know that also you're leading out a real deal business. You know, yes, you're utilizing and maximizing the value of blockchain. Yes, you're about trying to distribute a more economic and efficient system to afford that and as an offering for businesses. But most importantly, what you represent is the very few projects that we get to see that are truly trying to provide a voice for those who want to look for something that is moving forward beyond the new buzzword or the next hype project into something real. I can't stress that enough. It's been really a privilege to talk to you. Hopefully we can do it again. But either of you, is there anything you'd like to say as a final statement to those who want to understand more about LTO?
Yeah, please have a look at our website. We just updated that to LTO Network. LTO.network, where you can find out the information, how to become a member of one of the communities we have, and how you can participate in the project, bringing blockchain to the next level, and to get to that adoption. So I think that is a great remark to close this down, Brad.
No worries, mate. And Arnold, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you had to get up out of bed for this interview. You still got the cool fro going on. But, mate, would you like to also say something on behalf of the tech side of the team?
Yeah, I also want to thank the community, and they're doing a wonderful job, a lot more than I really could have ever imagined in building community tools, building, getting the statistic out and building cool profs. So, community, keep this up.
Got it, mate. So if you want to know more about working on workflows, on bringing blockchain to business, you know where to go. LTO is the name. Blockchain business is their game. Check them out. I'll make sure the descriptions are all below for you. And thank you, both of you, as core members of LTO, for your time. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Brad.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. See ya.